Hey everyone, welcome back to our very last online lesson. And today we're going to talk about improving your sleep. Now, sleep is hard to come by as a college student, right? There's a lot getting in your way, whether it's studying or socializing. It's just hard to get enough sleep. Now that we're all home, kind of sheltered in our homes, sleep can be just as hard. You're thrown off your schedule, there's things pulling at your time, you're having to transition to online classes. So sleep is just a hard thing to get. But today we're going to talk about why we need it and why we should try to prioritize it. So first, what is sleep? So sleep is the period of rest and recovery from the demands of your day. We all have really busy days. We go, 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 go. And sleep is when we can relax. Our metabolism is low. We're conserving energy. We're restoring our body. Now, here's the thing. Your brain is actually incredibly active when you're sleeping. So even though your body is resting, your brain is doing a lot of really important cognitive processes to allow you to do things like consolidate your memories. So how much sleep do we need to get every night? If we want to maximize the physical benefits, if we want to maximize the cognitive benefits, how much sleep do we need? Well, as you know, it depends on your age, but for all of us, 18 and older, we pretty much need between 7 and 9 hours a night, so an average of 8 hours. Obviously, babies, toddlers need a lot more sleep. They're growing and developing, so they need more sleep. We need about 8 hours a night. You might be surprised to know that there's actually recommendations for college students. The National Sleep Foundation recommends 9 hours and 15 minutes a night of sleep for college students. Okay, so that's if we want to get enough sleep for our physical functioning, our cognitive processing. Obviously, we need a lot of brain power in college. So 9 hours and 15 minutes. This was a study they did, and it was a pretty small sample, only 192 students. But you can see that no one was even coming close to that. Freshmen, for whatever reason, were getting the most hours of sleep at 5 hours and 18 minutes. But again, the recommendation, 9 hours and 15 minutes. I think this is an interesting graphic, right? You wouldn't let this happen to your phone. Don't let it happen to you either. Sleep is an act of self-care, right? Sleep is a way we take care of ourselves, our physical body, our mind. So we really want to start to prioritize getting enough sleep. Okay, so what makes us tired? Let's say that we never had clocks and we didn't have watches. When would we still know when it was time to go to sleep? You're probably nodding your head yes, because we all know that, yeah, absolutely. Our bodies are smart and we have these things called circadian rhythms. These are your internal biological clocks. So at night, the temperature goes down, the sun goes down, your body releases something called melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that makes us sleepy. There's certainly things that can throw off that internal clock though. So things like jet lag, right? Traveling across time zones, working the night shift. You know, your body might adapt a little bit to that, but you never fully get used to working that night shift. Caffeine is a stimulant, certainly can keep you awake. And then technology. Technology is probably the biggest one for most of us that might make it difficult to go to sleep. So let's say you go to bed, you're tired, like you're physiologically really tired, but you spend 30 minutes an hour just scrolling through social media. That blue light from your phone is actually going to suppress your melatonin and make it really hard to go to sleep. So what do we do about that? Probably the best thing that we can do is actually minimize screen time, right? So let's say you're going to go to bed at midnight. Maybe by 11 o'clock, just put the phone away, put the laptop away, put the tablet away, read a book, or do some mindfulness activities, or do something that's going to allow you to be sleepy, let your melatonin be released. You'll have an easier time going to sleep. There is a setting on technology called the night shift. It changes that blue light to a more orangey hue to make it less oppressive to melatonin. It's certainly not perfect. There's some conflicting information about its usefulness, but it's certainly worth trying if you're going to be on your technology. So again, circadian rhythm is that internal biological clock. Most people are going to be sleepy between the hours of 11 p.m. when melatonin starts releasing till about 7 a.m. when that melatonin release stops. Okay, our body doesn't like to deviate too much from this circadian rhythm. What happens when we sleep at night? The nightly sleep cycle. This might be something that some of you have heard before. Maybe it's entirely new to you. But there's two different phases of sleep. You have your non-rapid eye movement, or non-REM. That's about 75% of all of the sleep that you get. Then you have something called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, 25% of your sleep. So in non-REM, we have 4 different stages. Your first stage is stage 1. It's a really light sleep. It doesn't last very long. It's your transition from being awake to being asleep. If someone is going to fall asleep in class, they're going to be in stage 1, right? They're not in a very deep sleep. Their neighbor could tap their shoulder and they're going to wake up pretty easily. Stage 2 is where we spend about half of our sleep every night. You're disengaged from the environment, you have decreased movement, but you're not in a super deep sleep. You could still be woken up pretty easily. If you've ever fallen asleep at night and you get the weird sensation that you're falling and your body kind of jerks, that's actually the transition between stage 1 and stage 2. It's called a hypnic jerk. We're not exactly sure why it happens, but we do know it's that transition from stage 1 to stage 2. So stage 3 and stage 4, these are what we call slow wave sleep. They're really important for cognitive function. It's a really, really deep sleep. This is also where you release human growth hormone. So you're really getting into the purposes of sleep here, right? Growth, development, cognitive functioning. This is also where any kind of sleep abnormality will happen. If somebody sleepwalks, sleep talking, night terrors in children typically happen in these deepest stages of sleep. So between your non-REM, you also have something called REM sleep. Now, we don't spend the majority of our time in REM, but it's really vital to our brain processing. So 2 things happen during REM sleep. First of all, you dream. Everybody dreams every single night as long as you're sleeping about an hour and a half. Okay, if you get more than an hour and a half of sleep, you're going to dream. You may or may not remember it, but everybody dreams every night. So your brain is incredibly active, you're dreaming, but at the same time, your skeletal muscles are actually paralyzed. So you're still breathing, your heart's still beating, but your muscles are paralyzed. So that happens as a defense mechanism against acting out our dreams, right? Let's say that I'm dreaming that I'm flying. I don't want to get up on the bed and try to jump off. So this temporary muscle paralysis is actually your body's defense mechanism. Now, I said REM sleep was important for brain activity. This is where you actually file ideas and thoughts into your memory from the past 24 to 48 hours. So things happen during the day, and then we file them away so we can remember them during REM sleep. You actually can be really creative during this phase of sleep. You can come up with new ideas. If you've ever heard that phrase, oh, just go sleep on it. You know, you're trying to make a decision and someone says, just go sleep on it. That's because you actually can make new ideas when you're sleeping. So REM sleep is really important. We have to have it. If you're sleep deprived, if you're not getting enough sleep, you will actually move into REM more quickly. You'll neglect some of your deeper stages of sleep, stage 3 and stage 4, and you'll move into REM. That's called the REM rebound effect, okay? Because that's showing that you have to have that REM sleep, and your brain is going to get it however it can. So we know sleep is important for a number of reasons. One is your physical health. So remember, your metabolism when you're sleeping is at its lowest, your basal metabolic rate. You're storing up energy for the next day. You have to get enough sleep. You have to have the energy storage to have enough energy for the things you have to do tomorrow. You also increase your immune system, resistance to illness and infection, tissue growth and repair, and actually getting enough sleep lowers your risk of cardiovascular disease. So there's some long-term effects as well. Enhances cognitive and motor function like your memory, your attention span, your ability to react, your task performance, and then promotes psychological health. You're less stressed, you're less worried, you're less sad, lowers your risk of depression and anxiety. I don't know if you've ever gone through a stressful situation and also been sleep deprived. It makes it so much worse, right? So getting enough sleep is actually a buffer for stress. So I want to talk to you about one study that was done looking at sleep and the immune system. And this was a really interesting study done at UC San Francisco. And what they did was they took a group of people and they wanted to look at what were their chances of catching a cold when exposed to the virus. So they took 160 people into a hotel and they actually gave them the cold virus. And then they monitored them in this hotel for a week. Now, what they did was they first looked at the number of hours of sleep on average they'd gotten the week before. Okay, and they put them into quartiles. Did you get more than 7 hours, 6 to 7, 5 to 6, or less than 5? And then they looked at what was your chance of catching that cold by the amount of sleep you had gotten the week before. There's a huge difference, right? Look at the people who'd gotten less than 5 hours of sleep. They had an almost 50% chance of catching that cold within that week after they were exposed, compared to the group that had gotten more than 5 hours of sleep on average the week before. They only had about a 17% chance of that cold virus actually catching and them getting that cold. Okay, again, interesting study. I've actually linked the methods on the sleep module in Canvas if you want to read this study. It's pretty interesting. So looking at the long-term effects of sleep deprivation, insufficient sleep has been linked to obesity for a number of reasons. It's been linked to diabetes, the way your body processes blood sugar actually changes. It's been linked to heart disease. So not only do we have the short-term outcomes of impaired immune system and not enough energy, but we also have long-term chronic disease outcomes. All right, so let's just get very practical for a minute. And I want to talk about something called sleep debt. This is exactly what it sounds like. This is the difference between the number of hours that you sleep and the number of hours that you actually need. So let's say that I need 8 hours of sleep, but I'm only getting 5 hours a night. Well, that first night I'm in 3 hours of sleep debt, and that's going to accumulate. So if I do that every night, I'm going to have 3 hours of sleep debt, 6 hours, 9 hours. And how am I going to tell if I have sleep debt? Well, I'm going to be really tired, right? I'm going to have something that we call excessive daytime sleepiness. That feeling of like, I could fall asleep anywhere at any time. I just have to close my eyes and take a nap. I'm sure all of you have experienced that. That's a sign that you're in sleep debt. So how do we reverse sleep debt? There's only one way, and that's to get sleep. Right, you've got to catch up on your sleep. Probably a lot of you rely on the weekends for that, right? So in college, you don't sleep a lot during the week, and then you just sleep your entire weekend to try to catch up on that sleep debt. Well, that's actually not the best method of reversing sleep debt. You might feel better on Saturday, you might feel better on Sunday, but think about this. Let's say that you sleep in until 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. Are you going to be ready for bed that night by, say, midnight? Of course not. You've not been up for very long at that point, right? So maybe you stay up until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you have to get up for class on Monday. So what's happening? You're starting the cycle of sleep debt all over again. So sleeping in on weekends may be helpful on Saturday and Sunday, but it's not really going to help reverse that sleep debt for the rest of the week. So instead of relying on that, we want to try to get on a regular sleep schedule throughout the week. If you could get in bed before midnight, Sunday through Thursday, those are the nights before you have class, you should be able to get at minimum 7 hours of sleep a night, unless you have an early morning sports practice or something like that. But the majority of people should be able to get enough sleep if they get in bed by, say, midnight. The problem with sleep debt and that excessive daytime sleepiness is you can't always tell when you're about to fall asleep. If you are tired enough, your brain, literally parts of it start to shut down and say, I need a nap. You do these things called microsleeps. Microsleeps are basically pockets of voluntary unconsciousness lasting from about 10 seconds up to about 20 seconds, typically ending in that head jolt, right? So you're sitting in class and all of a sudden your head kind of jolts and you're like, oh man, like I'm not asleep. I was awake. Nobody saw that, right? That's a microsleep. Happens all the time in class. Is it the best thing to happen during class? Of course not. But when could that be a really dangerous thing? When you're driving, right? We have to be alert when we're driving. 1 in 5 car crashes are related to driving while tired. Sometimes you don't even really feel that tired, but if you are in that sleep debt and you have that daytime sleepiness, again, you can't keep yourself awake all the time. They did some interesting research on how sleep-deprived individuals score on performance and alertness tests. And if you see in this blue box here, they actually scored worse than people with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.1. Okay, 0.1, that's way above our legal driving limit. So driving while drowsy is actually really similar to driving while intoxicated in terms of your performance and your alertness time. So get enough sleep. If you have to drive anywhere, make sure you are well rested. Caffeine is a stimulant. It certainly is going to wake you up, whether that's coffee or an energy drink. However, it's not a substitute for sleep. It may keep you alert for 2 to 3 hours, but to reverse that sleep debt, again, you have to be getting enough sleep. Caffeine can certainly make it hard to go to sleep at night if you're drinking it too late in the day. So what's an alternative? Let's say you're exhausted during the day and you have a little extra time. Try taking a nap. I'm sure you've all heard of power naps. So when we say power nap, we are talking about 20 to 30 minutes for a nap. That's what's gonna make you wake up and feel productive, feel refreshed, right? I'm wondering how many of you have had the experience of taking a really, really long nap. Let's say you've napped for 2 hours and you wake up and you just feel like you've been hit by a truck. Okay, I bet some of you have felt that. That's because long naps leave you with something called sleep inertia. Sleep inertia, again, is that feeling of like, oh my goodness, I just need to go back to sleep. That's because you have gone into those deeper stages of sleep and your body now just wants a full night's sleep. It's not ready to get up after 2 hours, 3 hours. So try to stick to 20 to 30 minutes. You're not going to get into those deeper stages of sleep and you're going to wake up feeling much more productive and ready to go for the rest of the day. There are a lot of different sleep disorders, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. There's a few slides on the Canvas PowerPoint if you want to read about more sleep disorders. But I just want to highlight insomnia because this is by far the most common sleep disorder. So insomnia is you have trouble falling asleep, or you wake up a lot during sleep, or you're waking up really early in the morning, you can't go back to sleep. Something is impairing your sleep. Here's the thing with insomnia. There's typically something underlying. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's a medication you're taking or some other change in your circadian rhythm. But the key is that you actually want to figure out what is underlying the insomnia. If you can't sleep for more than a week or two, consult a physician. Ask them to help you figure out why you can't sleep. You don't want to take a sleep aid and just cover it up. You want to figure out what is the root of the problem. So sleep aids can help you sleep. That's what they're for, right? But certainly things that are prescription only can have side effects like daytime sleepiness, sleepwalking, hallucinations. You could become dependent on them, build a tolerance, which of course leads to addiction. So have a conversation with your physician. This is not something to take lightly. You want to, again, figure out why you can't sleep before turning to something like this. There are a few things over the counter to help with sleep. There's ZzzQuil. It's a non-habit forming for sleep only medication you can take. And then there's melatonin. So your body makes melatonin naturally, but you can supplement it. But if you find yourself having to take something like this every single day, you want to have a conversation with your doctor. You want to figure out why you can't sleep, what is the underlying cause, and you don't want to rely on anything to sleep every single night. Okay, you want to figure out why you can't sleep, get to the root of it, and fix the root of the cause instead of just covering it up with a sleep aid. So how are we going to get a good night's sleep? It is definitely easier said than done in college, but probably the best thing you can do is to maintain a regular sleep cycle. Try to go to bed around the same time every night and wake up around the same time every morning, okay, as best you can. Create a sleep-friendly environment. Maybe that means turning on a fan or a sound machine or wearing earplugs, but create an environment that is nice to sleep in. Again, difficult in a dorm room, I understand, but try the best you can. Avoid caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. Certainly manage your stress. Establish bedtime routines. Exercise. Definitely exercise. People who do report the best sleep, but sometimes too close to bedtime can actually wake you up. Avoid eating too close to bedtime, and then take those short naps, right? Stick to less than 30 minutes. All right, good luck getting enough sleep.